Everyone enjoys the mystery and suspense that surrounds abandoned places. But what if those abandoned places are islands that are now human-free? What's not to love about an island? Islands seem like one of the least likely places to have been abandoned and left to fall into darkness and ruin. Still, dozens of islands scattered around the world's oceans have been abandoned by their people and are almost forgotten. They are stuck in time and have nothing to offer but a story. It gives them a strange and exciting second life somehow. Keep watching for the fascinating stories behind 10 abandoned islands worldwide, ranging from unexplained murders to volcanic catastrophes. Number 10. Clipperton Island, France. Like many of the islands on this list, Clipperton Island has a tragic history. In 1897, Mexico sent a Navy ship to the island to take it over and set up a colony. By 1914, at least 100 people were living on the island. When the Mexican Revolution broke out a few years later, food shipments stopped and many starved and died of disease. Soon, only a loner lighthouse keeper, Victoriano Alvarez, and a few women and children remained. Alvarez declared himself king at this time and began enslaving, abusing, and killing the remaining colonists. Later, the survivors got together and killed Alvarez. A few days after getting rid of their dictator, the people still alive were saved by an American gunship. Although the island is currently a French territory, no more attempts to settle it were made. Number 9. Spinolonga Greece. From 1903 to 1957, this tiny Greek island off the north coast of Crete was one of the last places in Europe where people with leprosy could live together. Life in the colony was tough, especially for individuals who had been forcibly separated from their families on the mainland. Sadly, reality speaks for itself. It is reported that hundreds of residents committed suicide by leaping from the fort's high walls onto the rocks below. Spinolonga's population quickly declined after scientists discovered a cure for leprosy in the mid-20th century. The island's only permanent resident, a charitable priest, left in 1962. Number 8. Ross Island, India. The terrible story of an island destroyed by an earthquake is here. Ross Island is located almost 1,000 miles east of mainland India in the Andaman Sea. It was first surveyed by British explorer Archibald Blair in the 1790s. It remained mainly deserted until the mid-19th century, but after the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the British colonists turned the island into a prison colony and sent hundreds of hardcore elements to serve their sentences. The British wardens and inmates built dozens of buildings here, and the colony flourished for a time. However, in 1941, an earthquake devastated the island, destroying nearly all man-made structures. After that, many people left. The Japanese army landed on Ross Island the following year, but found it almost uninhabited. They created a command headquarters and built a series of fortifications, but abandoned it 3 years later when the Allies closed in. Since then, it has remained abandoned. Number 7. Poveglia, Italy. Poveglia is a lonely island haunted by a long legacy of death and misery. It lies just a few kilometers from Venice's majestic plazas and palaces. Poveglia was a dumping ground for Black Plague victims during the Middle Ages. As many as 100,000 corpses were thrown into the island's disease pits and burned, and the myth is that the island's soil is 50% human ash. By the beginning of the 20th century, the quarantine station was no longer being used, but not for long. In 1922, the hospital was turned into a mental asylum by brilliant doctors in Venice who wanted to take advantage of the island's natural isolation. According to local folklore, one of the island's doctors went insane, tortured several of his patients, and eventually jumped to his death from the island's bell tower. Regardless of the authenticity of the myth, it certainly adds to the island's creepy atmosphere. The island was transformed into a quarantine station for unhealthy traders and travelers arriving in Venice in the 18th century. The term quarantine is derived from the Italian 40 giorni, which means 40 days. Yet many pitiful victims were imprisoned on Poveglia for years, some even till death. Number 6. Holland Island, Maryland. Have you ever heard this story of an island eroded from the planet's face by the sea? Holland Island, a 5-mile-long island in the Chesapeake Bay, is home to hundreds of sailors and farmers. It was washed away by the sea and is now gone. By 1922, the island's population had left due to shrinking land and heavy flooding. Since then, the island has gradually sunk into the water. In 2010, the only house still standing on the island fell into the bay as the tides rose. Number 5. Sawakin Island, Sudan. This island will undoubtedly increase your adrenaline levels. For 3,000 years, the port on the island of Sawakin was strategically important to great empires. The port, located on the Red Sea in northern Sudan, was built in the 10th century BCE and provided an outlet to the Red Sea for trade and exploration. As Islam grew, it became a stopover for African pilgrims on their way to Mecca. The island was always wealthy and grew into a prosperous gated island port. It was a dazzling show of Middle Ages wealth on the Red Sea. Sadly, in the 19th century, Sawakin became center for the trade of slaves from East Africa. This event marked the end of the Grand Island. Later, as the situation improved, the decline in slave traffic reduced the need for the port. Sawakin was in a total mess by the 1920s. The once great coral city is now nothing but crumbling ruins. Number 4. Baal's Pyramid. Baal's Pyramid is a volcano that erupted around 7 million years ago. That certainly adds to the fascination of this island. Baal's Pyramid is a rock island 12 miles southeast of Lord Howe Island in the Pacific Ocean. It's named after Royal Navy Lieutenant Henry Lynchburg Baal, who said he found it in 1788. The pyramid is in the middle of a submarine shelf and is surrounded by rough seas. No wonder why it's so hard to reach there. To be exact, it is 6.4 million year old eroded remains of a shield volcano and caldera. The Lord Howe Island Board restricted all access to the island in 1986. Later, the regulation was relaxed to allow some climbing under strict conditions. It's worth noting that the last known wild colony of stick insects can be located in Baal's Pyramid. It has been described as the world's rarest bug. Number 3. Snake Island, Brazil. This island's name is as horrifying as it sounds, literally. Don't freak out. All will become clear in detail. The only people who live in Brazil are snakes. There are a lot of snakes, which isn't great, but it wouldn't be as bad if most of them weren't golden lancehead vipers. They are undoubtedly one of the most dangerous snakes in the world. This viper's venom is 5 times stronger than other snakes and can melt human flesh. Between 2004 and 2010, thousands of these venomous animals lived on an island about 90 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo. You should attempt to avoid it if possible. However, some people cannot live without the pleasure of endangering their lives. So, over the years, dozens of people are said to have died on the island, including fishermen, tourists with big ideas, and people who stole animals. The most intriguing aspect of the island is that no one knows why so many dangerous snakes have gathered there. Still, scientists estimate that approximately 11,000 years ago, sea levels rose and separated the island from Brazil, leaving the snakes alone on the island. This gave way to the evolution of new species. Number 2. The Auckland Islands, New Zealand. The term spooky now has a new definition: Auckland Islands. The secrets there are self-explanatory. The Auckland Islands are part of New Zealand's uninhabited coastline. It is situated in the sub-Antarctic hemisphere. The group of islands has an exciting and mysterious history, having been discovered in 1806 by a whaling expedition. The island served as a whaling station for a time before being abandoned in 1852. However, one of the greatest mysteries of the Antarctic occurred on Campbell Island in 1810. According to the folklore, the lady, who some claimed was a Jacobite princess, was washed up on the island. No one knows who this woman is, yet many claim to have seen her during the years of its settlement. Other stories say that the woman's head was found when the covered grave was found and opened. Finding a skeleton and a silver crucifix is creepy, but there's more. In 1864, not one, but 2 ships sank on Auckland Island. Some survivors spent 8 months on the island before building a boat and traveling to New Zealand, while the others died before being rescued. Number 1. Hashima Island, Japan. Japan is unlike any other country. You may be surprised to learn that there are several islands and sites, each with a terrifying history. Hashima Island is a fascinating landmark, but in an odd way. Hashima was called the Battleship Island. Where did they get such a strange name? Walls were built around Hashima to keep typhoons away. It provided the impression of a battlefield, hence the name. Until 1974, the island was a coal mine. It was abandoned in a couple of days when it was no longer profitable. It was previously the world's most densely populated island, but is now completely barren. The truth is that an underground coal deposit right underneath the island attracted the locals to live there. Residential complexes, schools, hospitals, and restaurants were built to accommodate the miners and laborers. It was a thriving little island, and its population record eventually shocked the rest of the world. However, as the coal ran out, the folks fled as swiftly as they arrived. The island is in ruin, like a concrete ghost town in the middle of the sea. That's why it's one of the most talked about deserted islands in the world. So there you have it, 10 mysterious uninhabited islands. Which one do you think is the creepiest? And which is the most interesting? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you can be notified when we make new videos.